10 years by 38%. That's above the global average of 23%. But we see other regions increasing new infections. The Central Europe going up by up to 72, Eastern Europe and Central Asia to 95, 95, 95. On treatment, we have now 25.4 barriers that limit girls' safety from HIV. They are track to achieving our goals. It's blowing us completely off track through to the transportation and the logistics into countries because of border closures, within countries, years with people's lives. They've now reached to 26.2 billion estimated. Our funding partners, particularly a number of countries from Europe and the United States, faithfully continuing to stand in solidarity with the poorest countries to fight HIV. We salute that. But we are seeing now real threats with their own economies now hit hard by COVID. There is a real danger of losing ground on financing the countries that are most in need. The countries most in need are also mostly indebted and do not have the space to invest in their own diseases, that epidemics have a cost on economies. We've seen it the hard way. So the two are connected. We need the resources. We need the human rights.
General of the World Health Organization. He will share findings from a new WHO survey on the detrimental impact COVID-19 has had on the HIV.
Dear Anton, and thank you for inviting me to join you. And dear Winnie, distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Much like the early years of HIV, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted our lives in so many ways. The world has now recorded more than 11.3 million cases of COVID-19 and 531,000 lives have been lost. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like HIV, the impact of the virus has been felt politically, economically, culturally, and socially. And WHO is deeply concerned about the impact of COVID-19 on the global response to HIV. A new WHO survey showed access to HIV medicines has been significantly curtailed as a result of the pandemic. 73 countries have reported that they are at risk of stockouts of antiretroviral medicines. To mitigate the impact of the pandemic on treatment access, WHO recommended that all countries prescribe ARVs for longer periods of time, up to 6 months, while shoring up the supply chain for all medicines. Furthermore, shortages in condoms and drugs used for the pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP to prevent HIV transmission have led to WHO encouraging countries to do all they can to ensure the safe delivery of prevention, diagnostic and treatment services for all those living with and affected by HIV. These disruptions highlight the need for robust and flexible health systems that are able to cope with outbreaks while also ensuring that delivery of essential health services such as HIV. The disruptions in access to life-saving commodities and services come at a critical moment as progress in the global response to HIV stalls. In 2018 and 2019, the number of new HIV infections stabilized at 1.7 million annually, and there was only a modest reduction in AIDS-related diseases. Despite steady advances in scaling up HIV treatment coverage to more than 25 million people, the 90-90-90 targets set for 2020 will not be reached. Progress is stalling because HIV prevention and testing services are not reaching the groups that need them most. So thank you, Anton, again. Back to you. Thank you.
And so if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box, or just type the word question, and we'll unmute you for that, what you're excited about and the scale up of that.
The reality is we have a lot of innovation right now, but a lot of that innovation is not to scale. So in fact, some of what we're seeing in terms of ensuring the continuity of HIV services during COVID is all about differentiated service delivery and ways to get people services that fit into their life, their restrictions, and don't always, require them coming to facilities. Now, these aren't all new. WHO has had these as part of treatment guidelines for quite some time, but in many countries, they haven't been taken to scale until now. So if we can continue some of the service delivery interventions we're seeing right now, that'll be step one. I think step two, some of the innovations on the ground that matter, also not so new, but new to take to scale, which is really decriminalization. Decriminalization of HIV transmission, exposure, non-disclosure, decriminalization of LGBT status, decriminalization of personal drug use, decriminalization of sex work. We know that these contexts of rights are huge barriers to people getting the services they need. And then I think finally with that, absolutely, we are looking forward to long-acting PrEP, long-acting antiretrovirals, things that make it easier to layer services, have them delivered in the communities, and
to have the supply chain that will be closer to the service delivery points, to ensure that we have multiple sources of medications that are needed, and also to ensure that we're moving towards more self-care. Another innovation that perhaps is an important thing that has had greater take-up in the COVID era is self-testing. We've had 11 more countries come on and start to implement that new recommendation, and certainly we need to test more, and self-testing is a way that we can have access